Hello gentle ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ari and I'm here to tell you about a game called Firefall. Please bear in mind that everything that I say in this video is to do with where Firefall is at right now. I will be releasing updates as and when they are given to me of Firefall, so press the subscribe button in the top left if you too would like to receive the updates of what is going on. So let's get straight into it. What is Firefall? Firefall is a massively multiplayer online action game with first and third person shooter perspectives with RPG elements mixed into it. There are currently announced 5 different classes you can play as. They are the Assault, the Medic, the Dreadnought, the Recon and the Engineer, and I have no doubt that they will be putting more classes into it, and I'm going to go into detail into these specific classes in the Create a Class system next. There is also a lush player versus environment atmosphere, as well as multiple game types for PvP. Again, I will go into more detail into both of these in the video later on. The game is set to be free to play when it comes out. It is currently in its public beta version 0.0 stage and it is made by Red 5 Studios. So without further ado, let's move on to the character creation. Once you've logged in and pressed the create button, you're brought to this screen, the character creation screen. Here you can input your own name, or you can generate one of their names like Great Fox or Slinky Beard. You can then select your gender, either male or female, your voice option, your view as each of the separate classes and civilian, as well as a set of presets, for example skin color, where there's quite a vast array choice, as well as face, eye color, hairstyle, hair color, facial hair and armor color. Personally, I prefer to go for down here the random appearance and just random it up and see what you get. This in actual fact is a very basic form of the character creation, but that in my opinion is a good thing because it really allows you to get into the meat, which is the actual game. That's a pretty cool looking guy. I'm loving the mohawk, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. The inclusion of voice is actually rather interesting because I would assume that that means that there's some form of cutscene where you actually have a voice and you speak, as well as it appears throughout the game, as I'll explain later in PvE, that when you get certain kills or when you kill enemies, you do actually have a voice and you do say things like enemy down depending on which voice type you've picked. I'm going to go ahead and pick country. Here you can view your different character in its different separate suits. So you have the medic suit there, the recon, the engineer, and finally the dreadnought, and the interesting inclusion of the civilian. Now civilians are what NPCs look like. There is no choice to play the civilian class, so potentially here you could lose your armor and have to play some part of the story without anything bar your fists. That would definitely be a very interesting addition to the game. But as soon as I press accept here, they'll be taken to a cutscene where you will land in the city called Cabana and you'll begin your PvE mission, and that is where we're going to continue onwards when I go into detail about the PvE. You cannot talk about PvE without taking into account the environment, and the environment in Firefall is absolutely beautiful. From the desert lands, to the hills, to the grass, to the sea, to the waterfalls, it looks absolutely stunning. They have the Borderland-esque graphical look with that cartoony yet serious vibe, as well as some edges being currently a bit sharp, but I doubt that's a main worry for Red 5 Studios right now. Graphical issues are very easy to resolve, and it's the gameplay mechanic that is more important. And with that, let us talk about the different classes. So beginning with the Recon. The Recon is your traditional sniper. His main weapon is the sniper rifle. Very powerful bolts, and the main issue I found is that being in Europe it might be the case, but the servers tend to be pretty laggy, and I'm not just talking about other players, but I'm talking about creatures. And when trying to snipe creatures, I find myself at times seeing a target in the crosshairs and then him disappearing. It's kind of frustrating at times. However, they seem to have attached a large amount of splash damage to each of the bolts, which generally compensates for that on most occasions. You get the occasional glitching, but again, it's still in very, very early beta. The next class to play is the Assault. Now the Assault is basically your AoE. He's big comparison to the Demo Man from TF2. So his main weapon is a plasma rifle, as a plasma grenade launcher, sorry. He fires out, the primary fire is a set of like grenades or like splash damage grenades, and the secondary fire is sort of like a shotgun with 5 sort of small burst shots, and the later gun you unlock, it actually sends out pellets that can bounce off walls and bounce off floors. So that's kind of your AoE, you deal with turrets kind of guy, you deal with mass mobs, that's the thing, big damage over big area. Next is the Dreadnought. The Dreadnought is the tank of the group. He is the heavy. He has a massive minigun, massive clip, big old rate of fire, can take out large amounts of groups, has a large amount of health with a shield special ability. So his job and only job is literally to stand in front of everybody and just mow people down. You slap a medic on that and you are guaranteed to win a lot of fights there. Speaking of the medic, my second favorite class currently, the medic's primary gun is obviously a medigun. However, there are 2 forms of medigun. You have the straight up overcharge medigun, which is when you alternate fire, you actually overheal people as well as return some health to yourself. The second type of gun is you right click and that steals health from the enemy and gives it to you. So you don't necessarily get overheal and you can't really heal yourself unless you're in the vicinity of enemies. And it's pretty good for soloing, it kind of gives you a break. Your secondary assault rifle isn't terrible, but you can get bored of it and think, oh, let's just run circles around people draining health, especially when you get into mass mobs and you find yourself losing health very, very quickly. The final class, and my favorite class, is the Engineer, who has a form of energy rifle like built into his arm, which looks pretty good. It has homing and non-homing shots depending on which type you pick. I personally always pick homing because that makes more sense to me, and the left click actually does repair jobs and burns people as well. You can actually repair burn people, which is a very interesting game mechanic, but its primary function is meant to heal turrets and stations that you can put down. So there are your support characters. Obviously your medic and your engineer are going to be your main support characters throughout the whole thing. Now, how much sort of gameplay can you get in right now? There's about, I'd say about an hour and a half to an hour and 40 worth of missions currently available, with the last mission currently replayable on a daily basis. It's a daily sort of challenge, and it is that challenge which actually is incorporated into resource gathering and level grinding, and that's what I'm going to talk about now, and it's called thumper farming. Now, what you do in thumper farming is you smash a sonic hammer into the ground, and what that does is send vibrations out and pick up exactly where elements are. Once you find a high enough proportion of an element, you call down something called a thumper, which is a massive mining machine that makes like a heartbeat sound as it works away. Now, as you're creating this massive disturbance, creatures are drawn towards you and dig themselves up from underground and attack you. Your job is to defend this thumper. It is 100% integrity, which is its health. When that goes down to 0, it is destroyed. You can do this in groups, which is recommended for the more difficult thumpers. However, if the thumper goes down in health and you don't want it to be destroyed and you want to gather whatever resources it already has, at any point you can send it back up and it will take away whatever resources it's currently got and give them to you. So in essence, you can do it solo, and if you think you're being overwhelmed, just send it away. It is an incredible way of gaining levels, of gaining resources. In fact, I think it's really the only way of gaining mass resources, and it doesn't feel boring because it's a challenge. The AI is actually very challenging. The AI is something that needs to be addressed as well, because there are times when the AI is very, very clever, and there are times when the AI is very, very stupid and will not attack you. I kind of think they're going between a fluctuation right now, but hopefully a patch will come out pretty soon and they'll be able to address that main issue. But once that's resolved, and obviously more PvE content which will be coming through in the future, it'll be an absolutely formidable free-to-play game and something to look forward to in the future. I will now start discussing the PvP elements of the game. There are currently 3 game modes available for PvP. You have your traditional team deathmatch, which is where 2 teams of 5 square off and absolutely attempt to obliterate each other, and the first to 25 kills will win the game. You have sabotage, which is similar to your Call of Duty demolition, except you have to arm each of the stations one by one rather than simultaneously. That is stations A, B and C. The timer does not regenerate after every bomb, so you have to really be quick about it. The opposition have to obviously either stop you from arming in the first place or disarm anything that you have armed. Finally, you have Harvester, which is similar to what I assume your Call of Duty domination would be, which is where you have to hold as many harvesters as possible. However, I was not able to get gameplay for this. I stood in a queue for over an hour and I still didn't get into a game. However, both of those other game types are available and I am showing footage of those right now. So, what about the maps? Well, the maps themselves are based on PvE environments, which I think is a very good thing, because with such a vast and expansive universe, you really have to utilize all of it, and it gives people the chance to really see and understand the map before you even go into it. I know many people will be saying, well, I'm looking for a game that's going to give me new maps and new everything. First and foremost, the game is going to be free to play, which is not going to cost you a single penny, and secondly, the environments look so stunning, and the maps are well suited for each game type. For example, TDM maps aren't huge. They're not going to be like you're going to be flying about for about 10 minutes trying to find somebody. You're going to find people very quickly, even with it being 5 on 5. That's not a very small cap at the moment. The other two game modes are supposed to be 15 on 15. However, I think as they're trying to sort server issues, I'm not actually sure about this, but the matches that I've been in have been capped on 10 versus 10. So let's talk about some of the little problems. Now, I mentioned the sniper rifle in the PvE having a bit of a lag issue and splash damage. Well, if you give it in the hands of someone who has 0 ping, or someone across who has a better server connection than you, you're kind of in trouble, because it takes maybe 2, I think, shots to hit somebody and kill them instantly, or 1 headshot. Now, the headshot obviously requires a lot of skill. However, if you get lucky with that sort of splash damage from a distance, I've found myself shortchanged numerous times due to snipers, and I just think it's a little bug that they're going to fix eventually as soon as they sort out the server issues. But again, it hasn't been live very long, so I am not surprised, and I don't really hold it against for Red 5 Studios. The other class that I wanted to discuss is the Assault. Now, there seems to be Assault being played a lot at this moment in time, mainly because you can do mass amounts of damage through that AoE that I talked about. And you can spam these sort of grenades everywhere and anywhere, and it just seems like there's just too much power given to the assaults. You have, I think, 6 clips, 6 shots per clip, and that in itself can do a lot of damage. They do about 370, I think, if you hit on target straight up. So you can take someone down pretty quickly and pretty easily, and obviously there's no break time between each shot as much, so it's pretty much an instant kill. The biggest single factor that is ruining PvP right now is the balancing. The patch is supposed to be there, whereas you're supposed to be bracketed into set levels and set sort of degrees, so it's a bit fairer on everybody else who's playing. However, that doesn't seem to be taking effect as such. I had to play quite a few games in order to get a relatively decent gameplay, just because there were people that were level 10, 12, 15, 18 onwards, just absolutely destroying everybody else there. And it's kind of sad, because it's massively off-putting when you're on a team that absolutely gets rolled, even though you're not playing too badly and you realize other people aren't playing too badly. So it's a big issue right now that needs to be resolved. I'm kind of trying to steer away from PvP for a while until I know it's definitely been patched fully, because I don't want to be in a stage where I'm just raging at a game that I know has a lot of potential. I definitely don't want to put this game down right now, because it is absolutely awesome. I can't stress that enough. But I'm going to go ahead and give my final thoughts on the game overall, and exactly why I think people should be signing up for the beta right now. Firefall is set to be one of the games of the year, despite being free to play. The graphics right now in Stage 1 beta look absolutely stunning, and I cannot even comprehend what the graphics will look like when the game is finally ready to release. The fact that you can create multiple classes on the same character is revolutionary, and I think something that many games should really take account of, because certain games will either have a character limit or they will start charging you to have characters. Not Firefall. You can have a level 15 Dreadnought, a level 15 Medic, and a level 17, I don't know, Recon, all on the same character, not having to worry. And the best thing about that is you can adapt to different situations. Say you're thumper farming and you want an assault, you can go to the city, you can go and get an assault. Say in PvE you've taken the first point and you're looking to get the second point, but there's not enough medics on your team, you can go back to base and switch out to a medic. It is absolutely insane, and something that is so basic, and I really wonder why other games really haven't picked up on this. The minor issues of the lag and the sniper splash damage and the overpowered and underpowered classes, well, that is the reason these companies give betas. They give you and I the ability to test games and to feel like we're really contributing, and the fact that we are actually contributing, and it's shown by the fact that patches exist and they patch things over and over again to try and make it a better game. And it is there that I ask that we actually give Red 5 Studios a lot of patience, because they haven't failed yet. They've developed and delivered an incredible product right now for us to play right now. The only thing I would say that needs to be addressed massively urgently is this PvP balancing. I don't want to say that many people will be put off, but what people are tending to do now is to mass level in PvE and then bring their highest possible level character to PvP, because they know regardless of whether the bracketing system is working or not, they will definitely have a strong character. And having people roll you over and over again, I was getting pretty frustrated by the end of it. So hopefully Red 5 Studios is going to address this really soon. I will not be surprised if over the next day or so, even possibly hours, who knows, a patch comes along. Anyway, that's basically what I have to say. Go and sign up for the beta right now. I'll put the link to the site in the description. If you have anything you want to ask, feel free to message me and send us a message. Leave us some comments. I will be most likely making a character guide at some point, probably for the medic and for the engineer, as those two are really my most played classes and my most favorite classes at the moment. But anyway, I hope you guys felt informed by this. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for listening. And this is Ari, over and out.